Hello, in this video I'm going to be going through with you some problems from practice problem set 1-8, which is a comprehensive review of all the conclusion identification skills that you have been developing so far in chapter 1. This doesn't introduce anything new, it's just review, but I think there has been so much material. There's so many different facets to this that review is a good idea for you. All right, I want to start with number 4, which is about servals. That's a long-limbed nocturnal African cat, which is about the size of a North American bobcat. It reads as follows. Poultry owners trap servals ruthlessly, since these cats like a meal of fat fowl or duck. Well, first off, let's notice that we do have here the word since, introducing a premise. Introducing the premise, so the premise is these cats like a meal of fat fowl or duck. By process of elimination, then, the other statement here must be the conclusion. That says poultry owners trap servals ruthlessly. We do not need to rewrite this at all. It's a complete sentence expressed as a statement, makes sense by itself, at least as long as you know the meanings of the words, including the word serval, and contains all and only the info that the arguer intends as part of the conclusion. So again, we can just copy this verbatim. Make sure I copied correctly. Yes. I'm going to go on now to number 7. This says, it's hard to tell what a cat's thinking. They use the same expression, whether they have seen a mouse or an axe murderer. I don't quite believe that, but hey, that's whether I believe it or not, it doesn't matter in terms of our ability to identify the conclusion. Notice that there are no premise introducers or conclusion introducers used here. But let's think about adding one where the dash is. In other words, between the two statements. If it makes sense to add because there, that tells us that the statement after the dash is the premise, so the statement before it must be the conclusion. If it would make sense to add therefore, where the dash is, that would tell us the statement after the dash is the conclusion. Here, though, because makes sense. It's hard to tell what a cat's thinking. Why should I believe this? Because they use the same expression, whether they've seen a mouse or an axe murderer. Okay, so no introducers were used. We did think about adding one just in terms of clarifying what's going on there. It was a matter of our thought process. The conclusion then says it's hard to tell what a cat's thinking. Again, we do not need to do any rewriting. That's a complete sentence expressed as a statement, makes sense by itself, and contains all and only the information that the arguer intends as part of the conclusion. Let me skip now to number 11, which is a quote from a memoir by somebody using the name Alice Bagg. That's not her real name, but that was her stage name when she was in the East LA punk rock group Alice and the Bags. It was one of the early punk rock groups in Los Angeles. She writes here, unlike donuts, pan dulce is baked, not fried, and therefore much better for you. I hope you noticed right away the conclusion introducer, therefore. Wait, I was writing the wrong number. That's not 8, that's 11. Now, unlike the last couple I've done with you from this practice problem set, we are going to have to do some rewriting. After therefore, this just says much better for you. Obviously, that's not a complete sentence, and if somebody just wrote much better for you, you wouldn't know what in the world they were talking about, what it meant. So we're going to need to add to that. What's much better for you? Donuts. But we're not done writing this conclusion. Much better is obviously drawing a comparison. So we need to, in what we write, specify what donuts are being compared to. What, according to the author, are donuts much better for you than? Well, that was specified in her premise, where she said that unlike donuts, pan dulce is baked. In other words, donuts are being compared to pan dulce, so we just build that into the conclusion. Let's see, I want to go now to number 15, which says, Damien had a mohawk, so obviously he liked them. I hope you notice the conclusion introducer, so. After the conclusion introducer, this reads, obviously he liked them. That is a complete sentence. It's expressed as a statement, but it doesn't make sense by itself. Who's he? What are them? We need to replace those pronouns with the nouns to which they refer. I don't think it matters one way or another whether you leave the word obviously. Leave it if you like, take it out if you like. Obviously is not changing the meaning here. Its presence or absence, I should say. Doesn't add to or subtract from the meaning. Obviously is a way of the writer showing the degree of confidence that he has in the truth of the conclusion. So again, leave the word obviously when you write the conclusion if you like. Take the word obviously out when you write the conclusion if you like. Either one's fine. But you have to replace he with the noun to which it refers. That's the proper name Damien. And then you have to replace them with the noun to which that refers. Them refers to mohawks. So there we are for number 15. All right, let's go to now number 19, which reads as follows. Argentina is a rich country, and there should not be children dying of hunger. There are no introducers used here. But again, let's think in terms of adding an introducer, just as a matter of aiding our thought process between the two statements. Would it make more sense to add because or to add therefore? I think I'm not going to try because for you out loud. I think if you try that yourselves, you'll see that it just doesn't make any sense. Therefore does, however. Argentina is a rich country, therefore there should not be children dying of hunger. In other words, the statement at the beginning that Argentina is a rich country is being used as the reason or as the premise to support the conclusion that there should not be children dying of hunger. Not quite done with this, however. I'm looking at this last condition that a conclusion needs to meet when we write it by itself. It has to contain all and only the information the arguer intends as part of the conclusion. If we leave this conclusion as it is right now, we are badly misrepresenting the scope of the arguer's intended conclusion. There should not be children dying of hunger sounds as if the conclusion is about the entire world. I don't know whether what the author thinks about whether there should be children dying of hunger anywhere in the world. I don't know. What I do know, though, is that this passage is about Argentina. I know that because the arguer has explicitly mentioned that country. The restriction of the premise to that one country, Argentina, clearly indicates that the intended conclusion is about the same place rather than about some larger area of the world or the entire world. In other words, to accurately represent the intended conclusion here, we need to build in the reference to place that we pick up from the premise. I just did that by putting in Argentina at the end. There are some other ways we could do it too that would work fine, just so long as you restrict the place that the conclusion is about to the country of Argentina. All right, I want to go to, let's see, two more of these. Number 26 next, which says, carbofuran was once a popular farm pesticide used to target foxes and raccoons. It's been banned from all use since 2009 because it was so powerful that it ended up killing animals not targeted by its use, officials said. Okay, looking now for words that can be used to introduce premises or conclusions. And in the second line, I see the first of those, the word since, which is a premise introducer when it introduces any part of an argument at all. However, here it says, since 2009, which I hope is clear to you that since is not introducing a premise. 2009 could not be a premise by itself. Rather, it's just introducing a specification of a time, in this case, one particular year. Going on then, the next introducing word is the word because, that premise introducer. And shortly after because, we see the word so, which is a conclusion introducer when it introduces any part of an argument at all. But let's consider how so is being used here. It says it, that is carbofuran, is so powerful that it ended up killing animals not targeted by its use. In other words, it's powerful to such a great degree that this other thing happens when you use it. And so something, that something else, that kind of a construction, or when the word so occurs in that kind of construction, I should say, the word so is not introducing a conclusion. It means to such a great extent that something else happens or is the situation. All right, that leaves us with because then as the only introducer here. And again, just to review, because is a premise introducer. It's the premise introducer I think of as the model or a paradigm of a premise introducer. All right, we have in the second sentence then, this kind of a structure. Because introducing a premise, the conclusion must be in the position before it, where it says, it's been banned from all use since 2009. That's got to be the conclusion because of its positioning. Well, you can't start that with it. That doesn't make sense by itself. Go back to the first sentence, which is not part of the argument, but is a topic sentence. And I left it there because without that first sentence, without that topic sentence, you wouldn't have known what the argument was about. So substitute carbofuran for it. And it's not it is, it's it has been banned. From all use since 2009. Now, before leaving 26, I want to notice one other thing about it. Notice at the very end, we have officials said. Officials said is not part of the argument. It's not part of the premise. It's not part of the conclusion. It is the source of the argument. It's what I've been calling in the text an argument attribution. It tells us whose argument we're looking at rather than being part of the content of the argument. So officials said should not appear as part of what we write for the conclusion. If we were writing the premises as well at this point, we aren't. We will be very soon in chapter 1. We're not yet. But if we were writing premises, we also would not include officials said as part of a premise. Because again, it's not part of the content of the argument. It's answering the question, whose argument is being presented here? All right, let's go on to number 29, and that's the last from this practice problem that I'm going to go over with you. This is about a dog who's named Boo Radley, and says, Boo Radley likes everyone and everything, which is amazing since he was abandoned twice before the age of 6 months. I hope you noticed the premise introducer since. If we look at the structure here after the comma, we have one thing since something else. Since introducing the premise, so the conclusion has to be this statement that is before since. There, in the conclusion position, this passage says, which is amazing. Clearly, which is amazing doesn't make sense by itself. So let's go back before the comma to answer the question, what is it that's amazing, and build that into our conclusion. Well, if we go back before the comma, this says Boo Radley likes everyone and everything. So how about if we say that Boo Radley likes everyone and everything. Substituting that Boo Radley likes everyone and everything for the word which, and then just finish the sentence and pick up then by copying is amazing. To read the whole thing, that Boo Radley likes everyone and everything is amazing. Or we could say, it's amazing that Boo Radley likes everyone and everything. Well, I hope this has been helpful for you. Be sure to ask me any questions that you might have about this material, and I'll talk to you soon in another video.